Taisu grew up in the rough streets of Seoul. His family wasn't rich. His father, an ordinary office worker, tried his best to provide for them after Taisu's mother died when he was young. Despite their struggles, his father always stressed the importance of education. He pushed Taisu to study hard and aim for a better future, telling him that brains, not brawn, were the key to success. But Taisu didn't get it. He was more interested in street fights than textbooks. Deep down, he believed the only way to get ahead in life was through strength, not studying. One day, on his way home from school, Taisu saw something that changed everything. He passed through a crowded alley in the city and spotted his father kneeling before a well-dressed man. His father looked pale, sweating, clearly terrified. The man had an intimidating presence, like someone who held real power. Taisu's father whispered something, but the man remained cold, uninterested. A neighbor, watching from a distance, sneered and said, "That man's a prosecutor. He's got more power than your father knows. With his connections, people have to bow down to him. Your dad's begging him to forgive your family's debt." That was the moment Taisu understood something that had eluded him all his life. Real power wasn't in muscles or street smarts. It was in influence, the kind of power that could change lives with a single word. He wondered if his father could beg for mercy from someone like that. Could Taisu, too, use power to change his fate? From that day forward, Taisu made a choice. He would stop relying on his fists. He would study, no matter how hard it was, and become a prosecutor, a person who could bring justice and hold power. It wasn't easy. He wasn't naturally gifted in school, and every night, he struggled to stay awake over his books. But he pushed himself. He trained himself to focus amidst the chaos, learning to ignore distractions just like he had learned it to survive in the rough streets of Seoul. Slowly, his grades began to improve. What was once impossible became achievable. Eventually, he earned a spot at Seoul University's law school, graduated, passed the bar exam, and became a prosecutor. But the reality of his new job hit hard. Being a prosecutor wasn't the noble, justice-filled role he'd imagined. The cases were more about procedures and politics than real justice. Decisions were weighed down by bureaucracy, and everything felt colder and more mechanical than he had ever expected. One case in particular shook him to his core. It was a sexual assault case involving a poor, single-parent girl as the victim. The teacher who committed the crime was wealthy, connected to powerful business tycoons and politicians. Despite the undeniable evidence, the case was quietly settled. The teacher paid a small sum to the victim, and the case was closed. Taisu felt betrayed by the system. The law, he realized, wasn't the ultimate force. The real power was held by those who could manipulate the system to their advantage. Taisu started to understand a hard truth. Without enough power or influence, justice meant nothing. He needed real connections, real strength, and just legal knowledge. It was then that he met an older prosecutor, a senior from the Strategic Department III, a special unit within the prosecutor's office, known for its immense influence and control over high-stakes cases. This senior offered Taisu a deal. If he dropped the teacher's case, he could join the department and enjoy more power, higher status, and better rewards. Taisu found himself at a crossroads. He could keep fighting for justice and risk losing everything, or he could accept the reality of power and join the system that could offer him wealth and success. After a lot of thought, Taisu chose the latter. He understood that in order to survive in this world, he had to play the game of power. As he entered Strategic Department III, Taisu's life changed. He started making deals with gangsters, business moguls, and even politicians. Slowly, he began to control the direction of sensitive cases, using his newfound connections to serve his own interests. The more power he gained, the more he drifted from the ideals that once fueled him. He became ruthless, calculating, and willing to do whatever it took to climb higher. Over the years, Taisu's power grew. He became a key figure in the prosecutor's office, controlling not only legal matters, but much of the economic activity in Seoul. Business tycoons and politicians bowed to him, and even the underworld had to respect him. But with all this power came a heavy price. His relationship with his wife fell apart, and his family began to distance themselves. Taisu found himself alone, surrounded by wealth and influence, but disconnected from everything that once mattered to him. He started to question everything. Was it worth it? What had he sacrificed to get here? The man he had been, the young man who dreamed of justice, felt like a stranger. And then, everything started to fall apart. His former allies began turning on him. His old partners betrayed him, and the gangs he worked with no longer trusted him. His former mentor, Han Chunji, framed him in a business deal, pushing Taisu into a dangerous position. Betrayed and furious, Taisu decided to fight back. He investigated everyone who had crossed him, uncovering their secrets and slowly building a plan for revenge. He wasn't the naive young man who had once dreamed of justice. Now, he was a man born of vengeance, willing to do whatever it took to get even. In the final showdown, Taisu took down his enemies in a battle of wits, carefully orchestrating every move. He destroyed Han Chongji's network and dismantled his former mentor's influence. It was a victory, but it came at a cost. Standing at the peak of his power, Taisu realized the emptiness of it all. All the power, all the revenge. I didn't feel the void inside him. Finally, Taisu understood that power wasn't everything. He had sacrificed so much in pursuit of it, only to find that it had led him nowhere. With that realization, he walked away from the world he had built. He couldn't completely erase his past, but he decided to start fresh. Away from the power games, he returned to his original purpose, to fight for those who needed justice the most. Taisu may never fully escape the shadow of his past, but at least he found a new direction. This time, he was going to fight for something that mattered, not just power, but real justice.